get out just to 14 foot road clear got illen a tataki shahin kid or quite a toss is savines me in kilure in Aras and outro Aras fish tofucht doing gamiach na dini me halah tramone kilure an law pale nashute gamiach she concludes is a better affair. Sabina and I would first of all like to welcome you all to this reception at Aras and Uachtarain for what is our very first St. Patrick's Day. I am absolutely delighted as the 9th President of Ireland to be able to make a gesture through your presence here this afternoon of trying to say every citizen in every circumstance, wherever they may be, is very welcome in the house that is the house of the Presidency. St. Patrick's Day has already, in my St. Patrick's Day message, said we celebrate a common Irishness that is experienced by not just those who live on this island, but by those who have gone abroad and in whatever circumstances that they may find themselves. So it's a day of celebration for all those who identify Irishness in themselves and others, but it is also a day of celebration for those who value Ireland from outside, for people who are anxious to assist Ireland, and those who value and relate to what they perceive to be our Irishness. And this creates a particular circumstance for us, is what kind of people do we want to be known as, experienced as, visited as, and we are in a moment of great transformation and change. And I think that it's exciting to think that above all else they will say Ireland is an inclusive society. It's a society that went through difficult periods and several times in its history, always coming out the other end, but on this time, in this century, that there will be no barriers of difference. It's an opportunity, St. Patrick's Day law Fela Podrick. It's an opportunity for Irish people everywhere to joyously acknowledge our shared heritage and culture and to make of our commitment to our shared Irishness something of which we can be proud. I was only a few evenings ago in County Down at a celebration of an event for the Downpatrick Centre, which I think was acknowledging that we share St. Patrick. And there are aspects of St. Patrick that we are now all able to acknowledge. For a start, that he came as a slave, and therefore we have ourselves the experience that in Sclavia, that we have in fact somebody who was a slave, and then who made an extraordinary description of himself as an unlearned person, but yet left us some very powerful pieces, the Confessio and another piece of literature, which are soul journeys, which are very, very important. And those are very, 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 very important. This is a time when spirituality is not colonized by anything narrower, and where, if you like, a person is encouraging a dialogue with themselves. I think that the vision that St. Patrick, what his own life tells us, is one of perseverance through adversity, of generosity overcoming cruelty, of assisting a people in being transformed through the power of spiritual idealism. And that vision, in a way, insofar as it is shared, of hope and renewal to the Irish people at this time, is a time that I had in mind when I was speaking about the need for us having our own Ashley, our dream of a better, kinder, fairer, shared world. It is at my stage of life, looking back at all of the subjects I'm trying to teach, the different Irish I met in different places, not only at home in the world, is how much yet needs to be transformed. The word transformation is an incredibly important word, and it is on St. Patrick's Day we should speak of it, I think, not only recognising the great successes, and there are many of the Irish in so many different spheres, but also recognising the powerful capacity and necessity that is there to thoroughly transform our society by removing every obstacle of prejudice and barrier to participation and inclusion. Moving endlessly towards the idea of saying, there's an Ireland, is a republic of which anybody would be proud of. And I think that's great and inspiring. And therefore, if we find by reaching back and digging in the life testimony of St. Patrick, or indeed in another century, St. Columbanus, it is empowering. I think that there are many things as well which are very associated with St. Patrick, including our sense of humour. I remember St. Patrick's Day, where I visited Clifton many years ago, where a man with a beautiful sense of irony said, "We're fierce friendly, aren't we?" Well, these combinations of language are very, very important. The friendliness of our people has been put into practical expression, even as all around the world people are celebrating today St. Patrick's Day. I have sent a message to our forces, peacekeeping forces, all who are so enhancing our reputation working for peace. There are people who work in the aid and in development, people, NGOs and others, and they are in our thoughts today. In my own inauguration speech on that wonderful day in Dublin Castle last November, even though it was raining outside, the soldiers of which I am commander-in-chief were getting very wet, I said that my presidency would seek to be one that seeks to be a presidency of inclusive citizenship, where every citizen participates and everyone is treated with respect, and that I wanted to begin a discourse, but also practical things that might achieve an Ireland where all citizens realise their civil, political, economic, social and cultural rights, their rights to participate in public debate, their rights to contribute creatively to and enjoy in all its facets every aspect of this country of ours. And that's what it is. It is not a matter of the country conceding incrementally little bits of its inclusion. It's about accepting the principle of inclusion. And one of the reasons why I wanted in this very first St. Patrick's Day event to actually make a statement about that is that you are symbolic yourself of people who have been working very much for a genuine inclusive republic, an inclusive society, an inclusive society in a creative state. I think that, therefore, I want to say that your presence here is a recognition by me and by Sabina and by those who work with me, that we recognise all your work for inclusion. I also recognise those of you who have different experience and knowledge of its importance, including direct experience. I want to say to you, we are Irish together, we will be Irish together. So it's an important thing too, I think, beyond Ireland, as so many people from Ireland would have gone abroad, and so many people from different parts of the world have come here, is that we recognise the rich diversity of the 21st century, that we recognise all stories and cultures, and that what you represent is acknowledged, nurtured and celebrated. But it's important to go beyond diversity and work for the kind of society where each citizen can succeed in fulfilling their dreams and realise their unique potential. It is very important to realise that it is important to have a fulfilled personal life that need not be at the cost of anybody else, but that one's increased capacity and opportunities for personal development are enhanced when one takes account of the other and the other takes account of you. Citizenship, in that sense, is a valuable source of solidarity, a source of energy, which binds and drives communities into positive action and celebratory existence and emancipatory actions. And I love that word, emancipatory, which should be the test. I believe, as I look back on my life as an academic, would that all scholarship in Ireland had in fact been emancipatory, or all scholarship in Europe or globally. Then it would have been really applying our intellects powerfully. But the transformative power that is there of communities in action. You can have a mass the German philosopher, reminded us that it has to be associated not only with narrowly constructed versions of civil and political rights, but with the fulfilment of fundamental social, economic and cultural rights. So active citizenship then is beginning, people are using these words I used in that wet day in November more generally now, and I'm very pleased about that. But it refers to the wide range of actions and initiatives and the public advocacy. As I look around this room and I think of the thousands and tens of thousands of hours and many days that have been given to public advocacy that has been so important. I think that has been your daily work, and your leadership in raising awareness of citizenship rights, in expanding the understanding of what that entails as our society evolves, is very important in the development of critical social consciousness. It stops things going bad, and some things can slide back in terms of attitudes. At the same time, it empowers people for going forward. I think that efforts to improve the public provision of social services, to render them more responsive to the needs of the marginalised, while painstaking and certainly are not glamorous, are critical in building the conditions in which citizens are enabled to act as citizens. And really, when something that is described as an issue of the margins is neglected, it is not those who at the margins suffer, it is that the centre is made hollow and the centre itself is made flimsy. I think that the active engagement of all of our citizens in decision-making at local and national levels will be a hallmark of inclusive citizenship. I think that participatory decision-making depends on enhancing the capacities of people who previously have been excluded from decision-making on the one hand, and on the other, on creating, if necessary, reforming the institutional mechanisms for their voice to be heard on the other. It is not a case of every single exclusion having to be faced and removed. It rather should be that the starting point of thought and legislation should be on addressing capacities. Have we made our suggestions in a way that engages all of the capacities that are necessary to achieve inclusion? I realise that there are many challenges to achieving real inclusive citizenship, and it is time we acknowledge straightforwardly that social inequality is a real obstacle to inclusive citizenship. Laws and cultural practices, and practices sometimes described as cultural, which are not acceptable as cultural practices, which privilege men over women, or privilege one religion over another, or favour someone on the basis of where they're from, or where they studied, are pernicious obstacles to inclusivity, and I am happy to say that very publicly. We are fortunate indeed in Ireland, indeed in my own time, I remember in my other life, to have assisted slightly. We have a framework of progressive equality legislation, including the Equal Status Act and the Employment Equality Acts, which prohibit discrimination on 9 specified grounds. And we sought, in preparing this afternoon, to try and get people from all of these different 9 grounds to be here with us. But the administrative delivery of the spirit as well as the letter of the legislation is important. And the delivery of the administration is a different thing. It is as if you cannot stop the advocacy at the point of achieving the letter of the law. It is how the law is understood, how it is administered, and the spirit which informs administration, which is important. And we know from the regular reports of the Equality Authority